Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being on today's call. I've got a great podcast for you today with a great agent. His name is Chris Maley. Some of you know who he is already that are at Miranda Real Estate Group, and some of you have heard of Chris. So we're going to be having him come up here in just a couple minutes. But before I have Chris come on board, I just want to let everyone know that, over the last few weeks, we've done, over the last few classes, I should say, we've done everything on seller, right? From pre-listing to what do you do prior to a listing appointment, how to get seller leads, those type of things. We talked about the 14-step process, walking you from knocking on that door to asking for that close through the 14-step process and everything in between that, which is so important. And like I said, it's like a combination lock. If you miss one of those steps, right, you go to talking about, someone said it the other day, like, Willie, thank you so much for saying not to talk about the number before actually doing the listing presentation and showing them all your marketing. Sometimes I've gotten it the wrong way and lost listings because they didn't like the number. I said, it's exactly what happened to me and why I changed that, right? You want to be in control of that interview. You want to be in control of that appointment at all times. So, we talked about that 14-step listing process. And then last class that I did 2 weeks ago, I talked about, and I went over A to Z, my whole listing presentation, which is on the private Facebook page, the Real Estate Masterclass page, where you guys can actually go in. And I spent probably a good hour and a half going over the entire listing presentation, from talking about who we are, how we got started, what our team looks like, what's the marketing that we do, examples of those different things, testimonials, and then we went right into pricing strategy, and then right into the close, right? So I went over that 2 weeks ago. But as we do in every module, I like to always bring in another agent that's shown great things in that department, whether it be social media, work with buyers, work with sellers. And Chris is someone that's done a great job working with sellers. I remember when Chris and I, when he first came on board with us, his focus was like, hey, I want to leverage my time the best I can. And the path of least resistance for that time is work with sellers, right? You can work with more sellers and you can work with more active sellers than you can with buyers, right? Because buyers do take a lot of time. And especially in the market that we're in now here in upstate New York, we're in a pretty deep seller market still at 2.7 months supply of inventory. We want to make sure that when we're going to get paid on these transactions. So being on the seller side, we know that you usually get paid on the listing side a lot quicker than losing 2 or 3, 4 different buyer sales that you do. So I wanted Chris to come on, and he's gonna, share his background a little bit, how he got into real estate. He's gonna actually go through what he does a little bit prior to the appointment, right? We talk a lot about prospecting and stuff like that, which Chris does a lot of the stuff that we've taught you guys on lead generation. But then he's gonna actually break it down and talk more about his skill set and the difference between what he used to do and what he's doing now, and how he had to work on his craft, which is really dialing in, right? If you're going to be working with people that you've never met, or maybe, obviously we always know referrals are the best source of leads out there, but what about other leads? What about internet leads? What about FSBOs and expireds and different people like that? Those are the type of leads that when you're out there and you're competing against 2, 3, 4, 5 different agents, you got to be on your game. And you got to get punched in the mouth a couple times, right? As Mike Tyson says, that's the best strategy, right? Sometimes you got to get knocked out before you really understand where things are going. And I'm proud of Chris because I know Chris has been knocked out a couple times. I've gotten those texts in the middle of the night or late in the afternoon where he goes, geez, I thought I had this and I didn't get it. But what he did is he went back to the seller and he said, what can I have done differently to get your business? And some of them, you can't do, right? They could say whatever they want. They want you to be located, 2 hours from here, or they wanted you to jump through certain hoops for a certain commission, or wanted to price your home at a certain amount. But a lot of times it could have just been the experience. It could have been just some of the skill set. And Chris has worked really, really hard on developing a really good, solid skill set to start converting more of these. And I told him that the more you do, the more you're going to see, you're going to get better, more experience. And we're starting to see that momentum picking up for him now. So I will, let's go ahead and see if Chris is on here. So Chris, are you there?
I'm here.
All right, let's see if we get your video on. I don't see you yet. There he is. All right, good afternoon, Chris.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me on.
So obviously you heard my intro here on you. I'm very proud of your accomplishments and what you've achieved so far in this short period of time. You've been in real estate just over 3 years now that you've been in real estate. So maybe you share a little about your background, how you got into it, and we'll start with that and we'll go into today's topic.
Sure. So, yeah, I got my license in March of 2022, pretty much when the market started going down, rates pretty much arguably the worst time in real estate history. And then, but before that, I worked at a company called JLL, Jones Lang LaSalle, great company overall. But it was sort of like I was a facility manager. It was property management on a very small scale. And I didn't like it. There was a lack of resources, underpaid. My bosses didn't care about me. I just felt alone every day. But I always had a passion for helping people. And before that, I was actually a coach, tennis pickleball coach, and I worked at different YMCA's in the area, building up their programs a little bit, coaching people of all ages, older people, young people, people my age. And I always had a passion for helping people, and I always enjoyed it. And my wife, who I think might be on this call, shout out to her, but she pushed me into real estate. She's like, hey, like, you can grow as much as you want. You like helping people. I think you'd be really good at it. Why don't you just give it a shot? So I studied my butt off, passed real estate exam my first time, which is a big accomplishment for me. And then, yeah, we just got straight into it, and that's sort of the background.
All right, no, you've done, like I said, you've done a great job. And I remember when we first met, I know you had, like you said, worked at other companies, and you wanted more training, you wanted some more resources and tools, which, we tapped into. And, but at the end of the day, and being a personal trainer that you have been, I said to you, I said, Chris, I said, you can achieve any goals you want. And you have big goals. I mean, this is before a house, before babies, before all this stuff that we talked. And you had all those things already in your vision. And I said, as long as you do the activities, the results will follow. Remember that conversation? Do those activities and results will follow. No matter what happens, no matter if you lose a listing or you lose a buyer, you just got to keep plugging away, because the more of those things you do, the better results you have, right? Because we can only control the activities that we do on a day-to-day basis. We can't control the results that we get. So you just became a student of it, and I said, you got to do your own push-ups and get out there. And you also went to other top producers in the area, Chris, and talked to different people that were winning at higher levels and interview them. Maybe you could talk about that.
Yeah, so I developed some friendships through networking with other agents at Keller Williams. I mean, I can mention their names if you want, but they became some mentors to me. And we just kind of did the same activities. We shared the same mindset. We're both young professionals trying to get after it every single day, real go-getters. I try to network with as many go-getters as possible, because we get paid $0 a day if we sit there and don't do anything. So I mean, it's high risk, but I needed to surround myself with those kind of people. When I first started, I was huge into networking the first 6 to 12 months of my career. Then once I started to figure out the formula a little bit, I took a step back from networking a little bit. I still do it here and there, but I wouldn't say right now it's a staple, one of the top staples of my business, but it definitely used to be. And that's how I built some of my database the first 6 months. I was just meeting random people at random events and getting their business cards, putting their email into my database. And I mean, everybody counts, so just looking to meet people.
Yeah, and it's so true. And that's the other thing, I know we talked about a lot too, is that you didn't have a big database when you first started in real estate. And, we talked about that. The bigger your database, the bigger your business is going to get. And I think you saw that also even looking at some of the other agents that were winning at high levels where you wanted to achieve, right? So success leaves clues. And a lot of these agents had databases, they had CRMs, they had systems that they had in place that they were doing. But I think the one takeaway on here is that they were very disciplined on the daily activities, and making sure that they were doing those daily activities every day. And they time blocked, right? And they protected that time. Share with us a little bit about that, what you learned from some of these other agents about, how they really time blocked to call their database and call the people that they had, and even people that they didn't have in there to build their database.
Yeah, so I mean, I've taken advantage of Miranda's CRM market leader, which you can talk about soon. So I'm grateful for that. Everybody has their own database. something for me, a goal is, and this is something my mentor shared, you got to be on the phone 2 or 3 hours a day. That is the goal. Be on the phone. I don't care when you do it. You can do it. For me, I mean, my daily routine is sometimes I get to 30 minutes a day. Well, guess what? The next day I got to make up for it, right? So it's 2 or 3 hours a day. What I like to do, I'm usually on at 8:45 to 10 a.m. or so. And then daily, I'm usually like 10 to 1. I'm not really on the phone. I'm, answering emails, negotiating deals, serving my clients. Sometimes if I really need to get a workout in, I'll go during lunch because I can. I run my own business. And then I notice from 1 to 4 p.m. is the biggest pickup rate in my experience. People pick up the phone the most after lunch because they're happy. They just say lunch. So, and they're less busy, right? So I try to get an hour or two always in from 1 to 4 p.m. if I can. I usually end my day around 4:30, to be honest. I have a 6-month-old, so I got to go pick up my kid and do all that stuff. So I end my day early. Again, I'm still answering calls and texts at night or whatever, but I'm usually like an hour in the morning, then an hour or two in the afternoon, and in between, I'm kind of doing what I need to do. I don't know if that answers your question at all.
Yeah, it does. So basically what you're doing is you're time blocking at 1 or 2 to 3 hours a day, right? That you're getting in minimum of 2 hours. And then from there, you're filling in your appointments in between. So, I guess, what you're saying, and this is what I think a lot of people need to hear, is that if you're blocking that 2 hours a day and you can get 2 hours done in the morning, then get it done, right? But if you don't, and because you had to leave and go on an appointment, don't just forget about that hour. You got to make it up later in the day so you get that 2 hours.
And something I will say, you have to get to a point where the pain of not making calls is greater than the pain of actually doing it. You need to be so uncomfortable. You need to feel like you didn't work. Like if I wasn't on the phone, I'm awake at night being like, I didn't work today. Like you need to get to that point, and it's not easy, but that's the whole point of prioritizing what's important to you. Everybody has different lead generation activities. Me, I like being on the phone. It works for me. So everything in my life almost, or whether it's the other activities I need to do, appointments, everything goes back to that one thing, and that is being on the phone. It's how can I maximize my time elsewhere on the weekends? And I can talk about this soon. I mean, I'm working on the weekends when everybody's out having fun on a Saturday at 3 p.m. in the summer. I'm on my computer scheduling emails, scheduling social media, working on my marketing, planning my follow-up for the following week. So when it gets to Monday through Friday, I actually have time to do my calls, actually do what I want to do. And it's a lot of work, but you need to decide what that one thing is that you need to do, and everything else around it, you got to figure that out on your other time so you can do that thing you want to do.
That's a great point that you made, Chris, and I think that holds true. Like, you and I were talking about earlier about a mastermind that I went to out in Louisiana with John Sheplack, and that's the one thing. You pick the one thing that is a non-negotiable in your business, right? And that that out of everything that you need to do, that one thing is a non-negotiable, that if you do that thing right, everything else will fall into place. And for you, it's the calling, right? It's the lead generation. And that's the most important thing. Like when we're not in the real estate business, we're in the lead generation business, right? That's what we're in, really, if you think about it. So if you pick that 2 hours a day and 3 hours a day and you're doing those things, and you can control that. You can control that. The results will follow. And too many agents, I think, in this business either have call reluctance, or they just, they don't want to call their friends and family. They don't want to call leads back over and over and over again. And I think, Chris, if I can say, because you're a pretty transparent guy, initially it takes you some time as a newer agent. Like I remember a conversation with you, you'd say to me, how many times is too much? I've called this guy 14 times already. I'm like, well, Chris, give him a day or two, right? Like, 14 times, not that you ever did that 14 times in a day, but right, there was a couple of times where you call them until they say no, you just keep calling them. You had to back off a little bit because you had to really know what type of individual you were dealing with. When we did this personality training, if you have a high D personality, you got to be really quick. If it's someone that's going to take a little bit longer in the process, you got to dial it down a little bit. And you made those adjustments, and you continue to make those adjustments as we go forward. But so calling is important, but it's a skill, and working on that skill is what I wanted to really talk about for agents that maybe right now don't have the skill of making phone calls or are afraid to pick up the phone, and call their leads in her database. What skills did you work on to get to that point? Because you weren't always loving, I mean, you don't love it today, right? Making the calls, but like you said, you became comfortable with the uncomfortable.
Yeah. So I could talk about this for a long time. The biggest takeaway from this entire call for who's ever watching, I became obsessed the last 2 years or so with improving my skills. I became consumed with getting better, whether that's my skills face to face, my skills on the phone, both of those combined. I lost so much appointments, and I hate losing more than anything in the world. Ask anybody who knows me. I mean, my best man in his wedding speech dedicated a whole 5 minutes to talking about how much I'm a crybaby when I lose and how much I hate it, right? So I hate losing, so I'm like, I need to get better. I need to get better. So when I was making eggs in the morning, I'm listening to role play on YouTube as I'm doing it. I'm role playing. I'm driving around the car by myself. I'm role playing out loud like a crazy person to myself, just talking to myself, whether that could be any time of the day. I'm doing that. I'm trying to always pick up things. I'm watching YouTube. I study the psychology of sales a lot over the last couple of years. I studied tonality, speed at which I talk to people. Whether you've never met them, whether they're referral, you do know them, you have to learn how to talk to people in a way where you understand their pain points. Sales is about understanding pain points. So a solution-based approach, it's not one size fits all. You need to, I could break down, there's so many different skills that goes into sales. Sales is not one overriding skill. Either you're good at sales or you're not. No. What I did, I broke down each individual aspect of sales and tried to master each one, right? So, I mean, for example, connecting with people, building rapport, that should be the bare minimum for this business. If you can't go to an appointment and connect with people and have a friendly conversation, if you can't do that on the phone at all, you shouldn't be in this business, number one. That's the bare minimum. Number two, setting an appointment. That's a huge skill that you need to be able, whether you're sitting with somebody you've never met, somebody that you do know, getting them to agree. See, these people have been in their house maybe 30 or 40 years, a lot of emotional connection. They've never met you. You need to build a trust when you're talking to them to have them agree to even have a stranger over to their house. That takes a lot of trust and ability to set an appointment. What I'm doing on the appointment is a skill. What I'm doing after the appointment is a skill. Handling objections. I studied how to handle objections so much the last couple of years, and I guarantee if you survey any realtor in the area, real estate agents right now, we're dealing with the most objections we've ever faced in history. Think about all the objections: sellers overpricing their homes, Zillow, I need to talk to my spouse, interest rates are high, prices are high. We're literally dealing with objections every single day. You need to know how to handle each one of those effectively. If you don't, you're going to be lost in the sauce. I promise. There's 4,000 realtors. If you don't know how to handle objections, you're going to get lost. Another one, asking a ton of questions. I dig deep, right? I mean, whereas, and I got this from Ricky Carruth, who a guy I follow on YouTube. Asking questions is a skill. Asking the right questions is a skill, number one, but asking a lot of questions. Not every lead is a lead. I need to find out if this lead is even worth pursuing or not, because I don't want to waste my time. I'm trying to maximize my time. I'm trying to spend time with my family at night and have dinner with my kid. When I'm on the phone or in person, I'm trying to dig deep as much as possible to find out what their issue is, to find their pain points, to see if they're even a lead worth pursuing, because they might not be. And the more questions I ask, the more I find out about how I can help this client. Maybe I can really help them. I dig deep, try to set the appointment, boom, go. If not, it's like, all right, cool, yes. I not tell a lie, but I'm like, hey, I just want to wish you the best of luck, and I'll be in touch with you. And then I don't follow up with those people if I don't think they're a lead, right? So, so many skills I've developed over the last couple of years. I studied just the psychology behind it. It's really helped me a lot.
Yeah, I mean, Ricky Carruth, great coach. I've seen a lot of his stuff. Actually, he's big on the weekly email that I talk about and have been talking about for many years now. Glad to see, some information that he put out there about how do you nurture that client? How do you always stay in front of those leads? The best nurturing is the weekly email that you send out to them. And he breaks that down very well. But going back to what you just said with the role playing, and yeah, I probably someone pulls up to you when you're driving in the car and you're talking to yourself. It's probably a little weird, right, to see, but it's so true. Like we should be using, we're in our car, 50% of the time during the day. That could be a huge education workshop going on right in your car. But you just don't see the discipline, Chris, as much. I mean, I'm not saying at all age, because the top 20% of agents that are out there are doing 80% of the work, right? And a lot of those top 20% are doing exactly what you're doing, always trying to improve on their skill set, practicing scripts and dialogues, just trying to be better, give value to their clients. What are some resources, like, let's just say someone wanted to learn more about scripts and dialogues and stuff like that, and you said, go on YouTube, and there's teachings that are being done out there. Are there any ones in particular that your favorite that you could recommend to an agent that's maybe looking to start making some calls to their databases, or looking for some scripts and dialogues to do?
Yeah, Brandon Mulrennan is one I use a lot. His last, Brandon, D-O-N, his last name is M-U-L-R-E-N-I-N. I use him a lot. And then Ricky Carruth, just those two guys, honestly. Ricky is more like a motivational enthusiasm kind of,
Yeah, in your face. Yeah, in your face.
Gets you fired. Brandon is more a psychological guy. But again, YouTube, I mean, that's the thing. We're in an extremely hard market, extremely competitive market. But if you think about it, we've never had more resources available to us technology-wise ever in history. You can YouTube anything you want at any time. So there's really no excuse for you to not build your scripts and dialogues. You can YouTube listing appointment stuff right now as I'm speaking, and you can learn and take it in. So it's really a blessing to live during this time where there's so many resources. And not only, let me shout out to Miranda, sorry, I shouldn't mention it, all the resources that you offer, Willie. I mean, I combine both. I combine yours, stuff on my own, and that's really what's helped me a lot.
I did a post the other day, Chris, and in the post it said, I remember going to my mentor years on, and I did the same thing you did, where I went and interviewed top agents in the market. And one of the agents that I interviewed was a top agent. And I just asked him, if you were in my shoes now, what would it be? He goes, it hasn't changed. He goes, there's three things. Lead generation, number one, you got to be lead generated every day. And a day without lead generation is a day you didn't work. That was his words to me, right? That stuck to me, and you just said it. Number two, know your market, know the stats, because real estate's a local business. And Christine Serafini said it today on our full agency meeting, that what people are hearing in the news right now on CBS and ABC and all that is that the real estate market sucks right now, right? The market is crashing. It's really terrible out there right now. And then we're thinking, like, here in Capital District, it's great. We're in a seller's market. We're getting, 20,000, 30,000 over list, or, list price. The average sales price has gone up over 10% in the last 12 months. Like, where is that coming out, right? So, like you just said, you got to study your market, you got to understand that, and then you have to articulate that to the client so that they understand what the expectation is and what they got going on. And then the third thing was following up on what you said you were going to do, and make sure that you follow through with it, because that's where the money is, right? The fortune's in the follow-up. So let me ask you something. Is there a daily goal that you have, some type of number that sticks out to you that you try to reach? For instance, like I was talking to Matt Smith on his team. He's out in Missouri. 20 connects a day is what he wants his team to hit. Not wants, like that's their minimum, right? 20 2-minute conversations a day with all the prospects that they have in their database. Is there a certain number that you have that you do?
That's it. 20 conversations a day. That's exactly what I issue for. And sometimes I don't hit it. Sometimes I hit 8. Cool. Maybe 2 days later, you try to make up for it by doing 28, or the math is wrong, 32.
Yeah.
20, I mean, think about it. If you can have 100 Monday to Friday, if you can have 100 conversations a week.
Yeah. 100 conversation. I mean, that's, look at the math on that. 100 conversations a week, 400 a month.
I bet you're guaranteed 1 or 2 leads a week just from 100 conversations.
Right.
I would agree, I assume.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So that's what some of these top agents are doing. So what CRM are you using that you're following up on all these leads with?
So I use Market Leader, which has been a great tool that Miranda's offered me. Now, I only use it for my personal branding website on the front end, and I use it for my weekly email on the back end. So I've been doing a weekly email for almost 2 years straight now, and it's led me to a lot of business, but I'm able to utilize my database. That's my favorite place to do my weekly email. In addition, I use Excel. I have all my follow-ups in Excel, which might sound strange, because maybe I should put my follow-ups in my market lead, but I like to separate the two for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But that's really what I'm doing.
Yeah, listen, the best database is the one you're going to use. So you're comfortable with Excel, that's great. For me, I lose my mind if I had to use Excel, right?
Yeah.
But if you're comfortable with it, then that's what you use. And that's the answer to it, right? That's your best database is the one that you're going to use.
Yeah.
I know one of the tools that you use with prospecting that we talked about is that, and not that we have a lot here in the Capital District because a lot of the homes sell, but like expireds and for sale by owners and that type of stuff. Like, tell us a little about that, because I know you like to give them value, mail them information, send them stuff on values of their home and follow up. But talk to me a little about that and how that's been helpful for you in your business.
Yeah, so I keep track every single day of homes that are canceled, expired, and for sale by owners. And I'm almost literally immediately, as soon as I see it, I'm sending them a handwritten note.
Right.
Now, not everybody responds or calls me from the handwritten notes, but if you do enough of it, somebody's going to call you, right? And I've got business that way. Now, that doesn't mean you get the business just from them calling you, because you have to learn how to talk to them on the phone like a normal human being, which goes back to our skills. But I'm huge into handwritten notes. I think it shows, even though my handwriting is kind of pretty awful, but you just take your time. You just take your time with it and try to make it look good. And then some people will reach out to you, I promise. Now, and I'll even dig at expireds from 18 months ago, 2 years ago.
Right.
Guess what? They had their hand raised at some point. They wanted to sell at some point. People, I mean, I think the numbers just came in that you posted about the other day. Canceled, we're seeing an all-time high nationwide of canceled listings.
Yeah, 15%.
That's a ton. People take their home off the market for a ton of reasons right now. Maybe they had the contingency of having something to buy, they couldn't find anything. Maybe they didn't like their previous realtor.
Right.
It could be as simple as that, right? So there's no downside when we talk about prospecting. There's no downside in me reaching out to people to see if I can help them. Maybe they don't want to sell ever, and that's fine too. But it's like, I don't know unless I try. So I'm just very proactive, extremely proactive about reaching out to people, rather than waiting for them to reach out to me. Because guess what? Nobody's going to reach out to you.
Right.
You have family and friends. You think all your family and friends, because you got your real estate license, are going to reach out to you. Nobody's gonna.
Right. No, you got to bring it to them first. And the same thing with your buyers. I know you have a bunch of buyers that you received over the years, and you keep in contact with them, and you're always looking at off-market properties for them, because that's a value that as real estate agents, right? And this is something that we talked about too, is that if you're just sitting there waiting on it, you have 5 buyers you're working with, and you're just sitting there every day waiting for the MLS. Well, guess what? So is 20 other agents, right? And they're buyers. But you actually took a proactive approach where you say, hey, buyers, I'm going to look for off-market properties for you too. And if this property just came expired or got canceled, let me see if I can reach out to them and see if it's something that you'd be interested in, right? And you've been able to and Ricky Crew talks about that a lot too. So anything you want to add on that?
Yeah, I mean, there's literally no downside in doing it. And many of my letters, actually, I say I have a buyer because most of the time I do. And then I've actually gotten listing. Well, it's hard to perfectly match a buyer to a house. It's hard. It can happen.
Right.
But guess what? It's worth a shot. And then you go over there. Maybe you do a video tour on your phone. Maybe you bring them. Maybe they don't like it. Your buyer, who cares, right? But if I show a certain amount of professionalism and knowledge while I'm at the appointment, I've gotten listings from that, even without my buyer wanting it. You know what I mean? Because I'm in the door. Right. I'm building a relationship with the seller, talking about the market, spewing my knowledge about the local market, and they feel like they can trust me just because of talking to them.
No, that's a great point. You're just building that value, building that trust with that client. Tell us about your listing appointment. I know we talked about before, during, and after the sale, but when you're doing your listing appointment, tell us, kind of just walk us through. Like, we don't have to go through the whole 14-step process like I did a few weeks ago, but kind of what's your process as you do the listing appointment? When do you do the presentation? Like, when do you show up? What do you actually do until to get to to the closing side or to closing that listing agreement?
Yeah, so I think part of it is understanding beforehand whether this is an actual listing appointment where there's an expectation to sign, or whether this is just a discovery appointment where they're trying to find out stuff about their house and you offer them tips. Maybe they're not selling for 12 to 18 months. That's fine. I'll still go over. You have to know if it's a real listing appointment, like what kind of appointment it is first, right? So before I even show up, I'm saying something like, hey, well, I'm sending a video text. Well, we can talk about this soon. I do a lot of video text. I think it shows a lot of human nature, professionalism. And before the appointment, I'm emailing them the morning of. Title is meeting agenda. I say, hey, here's what I'm going to talk about today. I also send them a video text 24 hours before, and I'll schedule those video texts actually. And I'll say, hey, really appreciate you having me over. Just wanted to put a face to the name. Here's what I'm going to walk through: A, B, and Z, or A, B, and C. And we're going to talk about the comps. We're going to talk about the market. We're going to analyze the current buyer activity. And then at the end of the meeting, we can decide if working together makes sense or not. Does that sound right? So I say, hey, if working together makes sense or not, because it doesn't show desperation on my end. I don't need your business. People are more likely to do business with people that don't need their business psychologically, right? That goes back to the skills study. So, but when I show up, I say, hey, thanks for having me over. Should I take my shoes off? Always ask that first, and then say, all right, so here's what I'm going to do. What I'm going to do is walk around, take some notes. Please shout out anything noteworthy to me about your house, any updates or lack of updates, that's fine too. I'm going to walk through this, this, and this. And at the end of the meeting, we can decide if working together makes sense or not. Does that sound fair? Now that line only works if I know it's a real listing appointment, they're ready to go, right? Now, some people, it's like, they respond, no, I mean, I'm still going to be interviewing other agents, so we're not going to be signing it today. All right, great, like that's fine. But I try to put the ball in their court as much as I can, right? Because I don't want to leave a listing appointment without getting a thing signed. I want to know that they're working with me, or I want to know that they're not working with me. I want a decision. Because if you're left hanging, that's usually not a good sign. I don't like that. So it's healthy pressure, and I'm walking around. I don't do a PowerPoint presentation anymore. Sometimes I'll pull up my laptop and show them like virtual staging stats, or I'll show them examples on my laptop of like, here's some virtual staging we do. Something I do with my language, so whoever's watching, I can promise you sellers care about one thing, and that's the result. That's it. They care about the result. All my language, everything I talk about in the listing appointment is geared towards getting them the result. How fast we're selling it, how much can you sell it for? You can show them drone photography, 3D floor plans. Sellers do not care about that, I promise. So if I show them, so example, if I sell a lot of vacant houses, I do virtual staging a lot. Some people think that's cool. And so I'm like, hey, here's why I'm showing you virtual staging, or I'm showing you this, here's why. 75% of homes that are virtually staged sell faster, 83% of staged homes sell for 83% of above. Bingo. That connects a dot in their brain. Oh, this actually works. This gets our home sold, right? Everything I do is geared towards a result. So the first thing, sorry, I'm kind of rambling here. So when I go after the tour, I interview them first. I sit down and I say, well, thanks for having me over. I really appreciate it. I was going to ask you, and I say this every single time, what are 2 or 3 qualities or characteristics you would want in a realtor that you decided to hire to help sell your home? And a lot of times they're saying, oh, we want a go-getter. We want somebody proactive. We want somebody who's honest. Now, some people don't care. They're like, nothing, we want somebody who can sell it. I'm like, all right, that's fine. What I do, I'm sort of setting them up psychologically. If they want, because they already know I'm proactive with the stuff I've been sending them, with my follow-up before we got to they already know I'm a young go-getter proactive before I even step in the house. So when they say, oh, you want somebody proactive, okay, cool. And then I do a whole presentation. I show them how proactive I am. So it's like you're almost getting them to say out loud what I already am, right? And something about listing appointments, I never assume I'm going to get the business ever. Whether I know them, whether I don't know them, I'm on the way, and I understand everything is earned in this business. So with my language, when I'm going through all the stats, all the stuff, I don't say when we work together, this will be our plan. I always keep it hypothetical. I'm like, you know, if you did end up choosing to work with me, and I think that's really key.
That's it.
Because, yep, I don't assume they're going to hire me. I keep it hypothetical because a lot of consumers, they want freedom of choice. And if you feel like you threaten their freedom of choice, that's going to be a turnoff for them. I want them to be in full control of their decisions on who they hire and act humble and like I prepare for every listing appointment like it's the first one I've ever been on. I don't care if it's a $100,000 house or $700,000 house. You go there and humble as all get out and be like, hey, I appreciate you having me. You know, not sure if it makes sense for us to work together. I'm not the right agent for everybody. Stuff like that, you know. But through the appointment, I'm showing. So here's some stuff I bring. We're going through all the comps, active, pending, closed. I run through some very quick marketing. I'm like, yeah, here's some virtual staging we did the other day. I really don't get into that. I don't think sellers, from my experience, sellers don't really care. They know you're doing professional photography. I mean, hopefully.
No, that's not all true for everyone, but go ahead.
Hopefully. And then, you know, then I talk about pricing. Now, the whole framework of pricing is, there's a lot to it. So
That's a whole other skill set.
yeah, and let me go back. So something I always do after my 2 or 3 qualities question, my next spiel is I talk about the pros and cons of their house. And I always start with the pros. I say it out loud. Hey, here's 7 or 8 things that I think are great about your house. And I just list them all off. Oh, you have first floor laundry room. That's great. People love that, right? You have a full basement. That's great. I make them feel good with the pros first, and then I hit them with the cons. And I tell them, hey, my goal here is to give you the truth. I'm not here to sugarcoat anything. I assume you want the truth, right? So I'm a straight shooter. I tell them, here's all the reasons why your house isn't good, right? And they appreciate it because if they told me they want an honest agent, boom, and then I just be honest with them. I go through the pros and the cons. Then I go into the quick marketing. Then I go into the comps. I always bring a showing time report with the active buyers that are looking for homes in their price range right now. It could be a Niskayuna, say it's a 350K house. I'll print out the last 30 days or 60 days, the active buyers that schedule showings in Niskayuna from 300 to 400K. Hey, you don't think your house will sell? Well, let me tell you, there's literally demand for people looking for houses in your price point right now. I think that's one of my, and I know a lot of top agents do that, but that's one of my favorite tools. Always show them how many buyers are looking for houses just like yours, Mr. Seller, right now as we speak. I also I go into inventory production in the MLS, and I try to make it so I average sale price to list price ratio, average days on market, and how many homes sold within your criteria in the last 6 to 12 months. So I say, hey, sometimes I'll go back a whole year. The average days on market for houses just like yours is 21. All right. So that 21 average days on market is huge for when I frame the pricing, because I'm going to say, if you come out at this price, you're going to know. After 21 days, you're going to know what the market thinks, how the market's responding. And then all I ask for you as Mr. Seller is after 21 days, if we don't get any offers, just have an open discussion with your realtor regarding new pricing strategies. You know, I don't guarantee anything. I let them know there's no guarantees in real estate. I cannot guarantee you're going to sell your home in 7 days. If you do that, that puts a lot of pressure on you. Don't do that. I go back to the data. Well, I think you're going to sell your home quickly, but guess what? We'll know after 21 days, right? So I try to frame that, put the onus on the market, the buyers of the market. Our job as sellers is to establish a position in the market, which gets the most amount of eyeballs, most amount of attention. And with the right marketing, with the right pricing, your home's going to sell quick. But, you know, we're going to see what happens. We're going to see what the feedback is. Try to take some pressure off yourself as a listing agent, because people, that could lead to resentment later on. You know, you don't want to lead to resentment between you and your client. Oh, why you promised my house would sell this much? Why isn't it selling? That's not a conversation you want to have.
And you know what, Chris, I remember those conversations early on that you did say, I know we can definitely get X for your home, and it backfired on you, because I remember you and I having a conversation. You're like, what the hell is going on? I thought this house would definitely go for that. And the seller held you to it. So again, you learn from your mistakes and you switch. But I like how you said, we got to talk about pricing strategy. We have to see what the market looks like to see where we should position you, right, in that range.
Yeah.
And then the market's going to tell you exactly whether or not you're positioned correctly or not. That's awesome.
Totally agree. Take the pressure off yourself and be like, the market will speak to us over this period. Maybe the average days on market is only 14. I know I live in Burn Hill School District. The average days on market is only like 13 or 14 here for a lot of homes. And so it's like, literally after 2 weeks, we're going to know. So that's why the data is so important. Know the data, print it out, show them the data. Sale price to list price ratio is also hugely important because I say, Mr. Seller, this shows you for a house just like yours, buyers have a willingness and desire to pay above asking, to pay 2% above asking price for homes that are priced correctly. So people like that too. I try to be as detail oriented and thorough as I can with the data and the numbers. And then, you know, they might work with you, they might not, but at least I gave it a shot and showed them what I have to offer.
Yeah, you know, the data tells a story, right? The data tells a story, and you're just the storyteller, and you're telling them exactly how it's going to go down, and they don't know. That's why they hire you, the professional, right? You're the one. You're going to actually tell them how it's going to flow, and at what point we're going to know when we have to make those adjustments. So, all right, so good. So you go, you walk in, you establish that rapport, you go through, you go to pros and cons. You know, you're getting down to your presentation piece. You go over the pricing strategy. Now it's, you know, it's closing time here. Where are you at this point? Like, when do you know when to shift to the close, and when do you back up?
So what I do during the appointment helps too. I try to get some micro yeses every single time I show them something. I show them the marketing. Hey, what is your feedback on our marketing? Cool. They say, oh, we liked it. Okay, cool. We get to the pricing. What's your feedback on the pricing strategies? Cool, we liked it. Okay. The more micro yeses you can get throughout a presentation, the more likely they're going to give you the big yes at the end. So I just kind of wrap it up on my listen, like, I'm very direct and confident and assertive in my language to be like, hey, I'd love the opportunity to work with you. I have a track record of selling homes just like this. I'm on pace for this. I'm on pace to be one of the best agents in the capital region this year. Going back, you know, did you have any, in terms of the marketing, the pricing, did you have any other feedback? Did you have any questions? Did you have any questions for me before we start the paperwork? That's really my last question. Do you have any questions before we start the paperwork? And they'll sometimes be like, no questions. Boom. And then you
go right into paperwork, right? If they have questions, they're going to bring it up, and then you treat those as the objections that you have to handle at that time. And really, if you think about it, Chris, right? Wouldn't you say there's only probably a handful of objections, really, if you really think about it? I mean, there might be maybe 7 or 8, but I don't think you can get to a list of 10 objections at this point.
There's not a lot. I mean, especially if you already got to the end, like the goal is to manufacture as many objections as possible in the beginning.
Right.
Sometimes before you even show up at the house, you know what their objections might be. Yeah. That's why I say I dig on the phone. I dig with a bunch of questions. I want to find out what their mindset is before I even show up. And then beginning, middle, you try to manufacture some objections. And by the end, the goal is they don't have any because you already answered all of them.
Yeah, great point. All right, so you close it out and you work with them through the transaction. Let's kind of, well, I know we got a few minutes left, and if you have any questions, anyone on the call, feel free to go ahead and type them up in the question box, and I'll bring them up to Chris here to answer here at the end. So you wrap it up, you get them as clients, you get them going. And I think at this point, Chris, wouldn't you agree that your process and now you have to deliver on this stuff, because if you don't deliver, now you have an unhappy client, a bad review, and a sale that doesn't come through as a result of it. Maybe just briefly talk about once you launch that listing, what do you do there as far as making sure that you have a checklist that you follow? I know you tap into our resources at Miranda and list through that, but what are some of the things that you do once you get the listing and you go forward? What's your process there?
So the day it goes live, I send them the Zillow link, I send them the video. There's a video so they can see it. And then I'm very proactive about feedback. So I tell them, hey, but it's a fine line, right? Because you want to set some boundaries.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, every single showing we have, I'm going to text you when we have the showing as soon as possible, obviously. your job, Mr. Seller, I only want you to have to worry about leaving and going for showings. That's all you need to do. 30 or 40 minutes out and in. That's all I want you to have to worry about, unless it's a vacant house and it's easier. I tell them, hey, as soon as we get feedback, I'm going to immediately text it to you so we can know what's going on throughout the transaction. And I tell them, if we get 1, 2, 3 offers, I'm going to drive to your house, or I'm going to schedule a Zoom call. We're going to weigh, it's your decision, Mr. Shell, at the end of the day, but we're going to weigh the pros and cons of each offer. Luckily for me, I know what goes into a good offer because I know what I work with buyers too. I always let sellers know that I work with buyers too. I know what they look for, I know what they want. But it's really just worst case scenario. I tell them every Friday, I set Friday as like a check-in day, right? If we don't have anything to talk about Monday through Thursday, and maybe I haven't updated them, I always send them a text on Friday just to let them know, hey, there's no update. Hey, we didn't have any showings this week. Haven't gotten a lot of calls. Just be direct, be honest, be like, and maybe we did have showings, maybe we did have feedback. I make every Friday sort of a check-in day if needed. But once you get the offers, definitely drive to their house, schedule a Zoom, go over everything. That I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. But I think what you said there, the most important takeaway of that whole thing is that you set the expectations up front that we're going to talk once a week. And whether I have good news for you or bad news for you, we're going to talk. The worst thing you could do as a listing agent, and we don't really experience now because agents have gotten a little lazy with it because they put a house on the market and it's gone a week, 2 weeks down the road. But Brian mentioned it today in our full agency meeting. There's been times, not too long ago, in the last 10 years or so, where we've had 120 days, 160 days on market, right? Days on market. And if you're not calling that seller every week to let them know what you're doing, they're thinking you're not doing anything. And that's where it sets in, they get ticked off, you're not doing anything to sell my home, cancellations occur, and you're not going to get repeat referral business from it. So sticking to that once a week is great, and I think that's a great takeaway. All right, anything else you want to add on that? I have a question that came up.
No, I'm good on that.
All right, so Catherine's got a question on here. What are some of the most common objections that you run into? That's a great question, Catherine.
Zillow estimates.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Started. I know Agent Brenda loves those too. It's one of her favorites.
Yeah.
The spouse one, I'm not great at handling this. I need to talk to my spouse one, but something I try to get is all the decision makers present before I show up, so that way the spouse one won't be an issue. There's a lot. People straight up don't have confidence their house is going to sell. They're like, I don't think it's going to sell. Give them confidence. Say, I absolute confidence your house is going to sell. That's an objection. My neighbor said this. My cousin said this. Oh, my neighbor sold his house for 360. I think, we can get I get the neighbor one a lot. It really ticks me off.
Right.
A lot of family members giving opinions unsolicited. I lost a big listing last year. The husband and wife loved me, but the brother showed up at the listing appointment unexpectedly. I did the whole presentation to all 3. The seller calls me. She's like, Chris, we loved you, but the brother said we should use his previous realtor. Guess what? That house has been on the market 12 months, still hasn't sold. I'm actually hoping to touch base with them next week, ironically, because I think it's going to expire. Just the family member ones. One I've dealt with recently is people just kind of throw $1,000 figures out there without it really meaning anything. They're like, oh, well, I want to list my home at 500 because somebody in our neighborhood sold for 600. And obviously their house is way nicer than us, but I thought, it can't be less than 100 grand less than that. And I'm like, okay, well, where are you really getting these numbers? Like, what? You're just kind of throwing numbers out of thin air, right? So I try to answer that and be like, listen, like, I can't really base the pricing for your home off of like hypothetical numbers that you think your home is worth, kind of thing. I've walked away from business. Like, I've walked away from a listing a few weeks ago. The house was only 330. I promise the house is only 340 max. And he was an older guy, very nice. I was in touch with him the whole year, and he's like, me and my wife want 400. And he told me, and I took the time 3 times. I met him at his house. Finally got the appointment to sign, and he's like, me and my wife, and I'm like, listen, like, it's just gonna sit here. And he's like, well, that's what we want. I'm like, all right, well, I want to wish you the best of luck. You know, like you have to know when to walk away too. So if you get those objections, don't waste your time if they're really not listening to you. I feel like I keep rambling. I apologize, but
Yeah, no, I think those are all great objections, and I think that's what, Kath was looking for on here was, the Zillow, my house says it's worth 400, so I want to put it on for 4.25, but it's only worth 350. There's always have both decision makers. That's another great one. I used that. That was my $17,250 mistake that I went to a listing, and they were both going to be there. And when I got there, just the wife was there, and she's like, "Don't worry, I make all the decisions. I'll just let them know." And guess what happened, right? The husband came home. What did Willie say? What was his commission, and what did he say the house to sell for? The other agent was higher. They went with that. None of the stuff that I went over with her
yeah.
mattered. It was all about commission and price. And
Here's a commission one. So commission one's a big one right now in this day and age too. Here's some advice, and this is a line I've been using. Oh, cool. They want to do it.
Numbers. Don't put percentages out.
Yeah, they want to I never talk commission before I see them. No, I appreciate you bringing up commission. What do you charge? I'd be happy to talk about, I feel like it'd be disingenuous for me to talk about price and commission without seeing your house first, without meeting you, shaking your hand first. I always do price and commission at the end of our presentation. Commission is the very end. Now, somebody's like, oh, my friend will do it for 2%. Cool. Like, if somebody gives a commission objection, I'm like, all right, well, let me ask you this. What's important to you in an agent? What qualities are important? Is commission the only thing that's important to you? If so, then maybe you should use that agent if that's all you care about. But I try to strive for the best level of service. Here's another line I use. You're hiring a listing agent to sell your most prized possession to negotiate the best deal for you. Would you hire an agent that doesn't even know how to negotiate their own income? Do you expect the agent that can't negotiate their own income that they use to provide for their family to be able to negotiate you the best deal, Mr. Seller? It seems aggressive, but guess what? It works, and I use it. I don't care.
Heard that for many years. Some people just flat out and say, commission, right? If he can't negotiate his commission or she can't negotiate her commission, how are you going to do negotiating your price? Top dollar for your home.
Get the best deal for you if I can't negotiate my own income.
Yeah, no, it's a great one. Yeah, so there's a couple of them in there. Like I said, there's probably no more than 8 or 10 of them, but those are the main ones that you get right there. And, so anyways, listen, Chris, this has been great stuff. We could talk about this all day long. Another question on here. Do you ever use RPR as to do your CMAs?
Yes, I use it as a resource, but I don't view it as like the golden.
Right? No.
Yeah, I don't view it as that. I use everything as a resource. I mean, I do look at Zillow. Before every appointment, I'm looking at what Realtor.com, Zillow, and RPR are saying, but I just like to see what they're saying, but I don't use that as like justification for anything. I just kind of want to see what the algorithms are looking like. But yeah, I use RPR. But again, RPR is not always the most accurate either.
No, it's just a guide, right? They're all algorithms. So you can't really use that. The best one is going to be you actually going in there, walking through and comparing comps, just like an appraiser would, right? So it's knowing your market, it's knowing the market, it's knowing, the school district you're in, which is the same thing as market, but the condition of the home, the upgrades, all that stuff that an appraiser would do, you have to, as a real estate professional, learn how to do that and come up with that type of don't ever use, and people still do it. They're pricing homes based on RPR and Zillow, and they're wondering why their house is sitting there. They could be 100,000 below and 100,000 above too. I've seen people say, Willie, I want to get 375. Why? Well, that's what the other agent said, and we went off what Zillow said. Okay, well, I think you should start at 4.25. And they looked at me like, okay, you're just trying to say that to get my listing. I go, no, here's why. And we ended up getting 430,000 for their property. It was insured for us.
Well, here's an example too. Sorry to keep talking. I have enough proof now. I have enough proof in the business 3.5 years, but I can talk about actual Zillow examples that I've done for a house listed and how way off the prices were at the end. I told them I had a house in Bethel Slingerlands last year. The estimate was 537. Before I met them, we put their house on at 550. As soon as you put your house for 550, the algorithm, the estimate jumped from 537 to 599. It was reactive. Zillow is not proactive, it's reactive. So then the estimate became 599. We sold it for 601.
Right.
So this estimate was 537 before we met. We sold it for 601. Clearly, these estimates aren't accurate.
Yeah. All right, well, good stuff. All right, so Chris, what's one piece of advice you'd give to an agent that wants to grow their business at this point? Maybe they're a newer agent, or maybe they're an agent that's in a slump right now, been in the business for a long time. If there was one piece of advice that you can give, I know there's no one magic pill, but what if that, what was that, that one piece of advice that you can give them?
Focus on your skills.
Uh-huh.
That's all we have. All we have is our skills. I mean, you can separate into will and the skill. You can work hard. That's the will, but that's not enough. Sometimes you need to have the will and the skill to back it. Another thing I would say, you have to have blind faith, a lot of blind faith when you're starting out. You're not going to see any results. You just have to keep your head down and doing the work. And one day you'll look up and you'll be having dinner with your friend, and your friend will be like, "Wow, Chris, you're doing really well." And I'm like, "I am." Like, my head's been down, so I don't know what's going on. But you have to have blinders on and just keep going. Deal with the rejection the best you can. Have a wife that fully supports you, or a spouse, anyways, fully supports your business. Definitely. But yeah, focus on your skills. That's the biggest takeaway.
All right, awesome. All right, if someone's looking to get in touch with you, or maybe had more questions, I know you're into training others and training other people for their fitness, their mindset. But I know you also were helped by a lot of other real estate agents. I know you pay it forward now to other agents starting in the business. Someone need to get a hold of you. What would be the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, so I'd be happy to help anybody out. My Instagram is Chris Maley Real Estate, ChrisMaley Real Estate, all lowercase one word. That's also my email, chrismaleyrealestate@gmail.com. And you can text or call me anytime, 518-698-5669. Happy to chat for 10 minutes over the phone if you're having any issues with something. Obviously, I'm having a good year, but I'm humble enough to aware that anybody can have a good year. I want to make sure the next 5 years are good too. So
Awesome. All right, Chris. Well, thank you so much. I know you have a great 2025 going. 2026 will be even better for you, and I really appreciate your time today. And took you off the phones for an hour, so I know that's a big thing for you. So I appreciate your time, and I'm sure everyone on this call does as well. So thank you so much, and we'll be talking to you soon. Thanks.
you're welcome. Thanks for having me on, Will.
All right, take care. Bye.
All right, bye.